we've already had some great speakers. So Chef Hyken was here, Jeannie Walters, but I get to introduce my friend David Avrin. He is one of the most in-demand customer experience speakers. World travel. He was just talking about 33 and 37 hours to and from speaking engagements, last week. So he is very sought after, and we're so happy to be able to have him join us. And his new book, Ridiculously Easy to Do Business With, and we're going to talk. Yeah, he's got it right there. So anyway, help me thank. On Zoom we do the applause like this. So help me give a round of applause for David Avrin joining us, and David, kick it off.
Thank you very much. Hey, I really appreciate it. These are kind of interesting conversations. Excuse me, I've got some throat issues. Because I'm talking to a room full of people, or multiple rooms full of people, who already know how to do all of this. So I thought, how do I bring value to this group when we are all peers? And one of the things that I think we all recognize is that anybody on this call could be on the main screen right now teaching something. And so, as some of you, many of you know, I speak on this. I've written a number of books that are strategically located next to my head here. And travel globally. I'm very fortunate. I've spoken in 28 countries. But sort of that messenger, I generally talk to audiences and organizations who need a better cognizance of what we all do. And so I thought maybe the best way to use sort of the short time that we have is to maybe help bolster the case that you make internally to your organizations or to your clients. Why is this important? Why is it more important now than it has been? I'm going to look over at this other screen from time to time here because I need to adjust levels and kind of go through. I decided I'm not going to share. I'm not going to share slides. I've got slides and I may refer to them, just sort of keep my order. But I thought the best time would be to sort of talk about how do I sort of make the case for what it is that we do. Nobody on this call needs to understand CX strategies or tactics. I think it's what we already do. But I like to talk to organizations, and I kind of do it in this way. And I say, I remember back when I was a kid, how much I loved summertime. I mean, we all do. Every kid loves summertime. But I'm the second oldest of 6 kids, and our house was like an absolute zoo between us and all of our friends. My father used to complain he'd come home from work and nothing in the refrigerator was cold because there was always somebody standing there with the refrigerator open. And then the end of the summer would come, and of course, it was sort of a depressing time. But actually, it was like a tale of two cities. It was in our house. It was, excuse me. It was the best of times, but it was the worst of times. But it was also the best of times. It was the best of times because for those of us who remember, the end of August was also when something arrived in the mail. As a matter of fact, it was delivered to every house in America, and it was the Sears Christmas wish book, right? Who are my boomers, right? Everybody else like what is the Christmas catalog, but it was from Sears. It was sort of our Amazon of the time. And this thing was, some years it was 600 pages long, and the last 100 pages were toys. And so I'm the second oldest of 6 kids, like I said. So we go to school, we come back, we'd fight over the Sears Christmas wish book, this catalog, and we dog ear the pages and we circle the things that we wanted and the things that we wanted our parents to get. But what was interesting, and it was everything that you can imagine. As I say, sort of, it was the Amazon of the time, or Amazon today is sort of the Sears of yesteryear. But there were a couple things that were very different than they were today. Not just the fact that it was a catalog, but when you wanted to buy something, you had to save up for it. I remember we want to buy something. My dad said, "Have you saved up?" We don't save up for anything, right? It was 1960s. The average household debt was $220, not counting the mortgage. $220. People didn't borrow money for things. They bought it for their house or maybe for a car. And today, the number is closer to $24,000 per household. And of course, many households much more than that, because how we spend today is different. Why we spend today is different. The rationale, the reasoning, the justification for the choices we make in contracting, B2B, B2C, all of that is different. So back in the day, that was one part of it. When you bought something from the Sears catalog, you had to pay for it at the time, to write a check or send in a check with that order. The other part was you had to order by October 15th to guarantee Christmas delivery. So not only did we have to have the money before we made the purchase, once we made the purchase, we had to wait. Delayed gratification was how the world has always been. You bought the things that you could afford. If you really wanted it, you saved up for it. And of course, things started changing dramatically in the 1950s and 60s. Pan Am Airlines was one of them that was the first to really create a whole new model in that travel. And we see those old pictures of people traveling and dressed up and, far more room and white linens, in on the airplanes, was because travel was very exclusive. It was very expensive at the time. And so people saved up for their whole life for that dream trip, that bucket list. We're going to go to Europe someday. We're going to go to the old country. We're going to see the Great Wall of China. And Pan Am did something very revolutionary for the time. They partnered up with the banks to give loans for people to be able to travel. And they were the ones who coined the term fly now, pay later. They said, you are going to Europe this year because you can fly now and pay later. And of course, the credit card companies later on adopted that, and it's the buy now, pay later. But we had Christmas accounts at the bank. You would put in money all year long. So you had money at the end of the year for Christmas or Hanukkah or the December holidays. We would put things on layaway. The world is dramatically different. With credit cards, I mean, first of all, we're not wishing for the things that we want. We're just choosing who to buy from. We're not wondering when we can afford it. It's the question is how. What's the mechanism? That omni-channel approach. So the that whole aspect of delayed gratification has changed dramatically. So now we're in a time, as we all know, where anything that you can see or foresee that's in the realm of possibility, we can buy. And in many cases, of course, we can have it delivered. I live just south of Denver. I think a lot of people are in the Denver area. I'm in Highlands Ranch. We have like 3 Amazon warehouses within 50 miles. 80% of what we order, we get same day. So when we think as organizations think in terms of their marketing, what are the primary drivers for customer and prospect behavior today? It used to be so much of it was aspirational. Today, we're looking for true differentiators. In the 60s and 70s and 80s, it was that advertising, was the marketing. That was my background. I wrote books on marketing. I spent the first 15 years of my career helping organizations craft the words that they use to better define what they do. How do we differentiate in a competitive marketplace? And I made a wholesale change into this beautiful world of customer experience because the world had changed. And the drivers for behavior, what we say about ourselves in our marketing, while certainly important, is not nearly as important today as what other people say about us. And that was the research behind my book, Why Customers Leave and How to Win Them Back. And as we look today, as we make influence within our organizations, as he had mentioned at the very beginning, that even the role sometimes is shrinking. Some organizations are really getting it. Some are struggling. How do we justify it? The rationale for why people make the decisions, I think we can make a very strong case that customer experience is the new marketing. And that's not being clever. It's recognizing that when you can get anything you want, everybody arguably is good or good enough, because if they weren't, they would be outed very quickly on Yelp or TripAdvisor or Rotten Tomatoes or Glassdoor or Reddit. Today, how we do business, what it's like to do business with us, is a primary driver. There was research 40 years ago that said that the mistaken belief that everybody's looking to make the best decision possible, purchasing, hiring, contracting. The reality is, as we all know, most people are looking to avoid making a bad decision. It's not that we don't want to make a good decision. We just don't know what it is. I mean, everybody's good. Everybody says they're good. So what's the safe choice? The safe choice, of course, is the one with 1,000 5-star reviews. The safe choice is that social proof that shows that the predominance, the collective wisdom says that this is a better choice than other choices. So it makes that CX role so much more important for how people do business with us. How do they feel about that experience? I make it very clear in organizations that I don't talk about customer service. I mean, I think it's important. We've been talking about it for 50 years. I think we know how to be nice to people. But today, that experience, what it's like to do business with you, was it intuitive? Was it complicated? Was it frustrating? Was it simple? Was it maddening? Is not only a primary driver, but it is also, well, let me put it this way. Why this is more important, I think, than it's ever been is because everybody has a bullhorn that reaches around the world. We all grew up in business, what we used to call 20, 30 years ago, we called this guest relations philosophy, and everybody's heard it before. The average person with a positive experience tells 2 or 3 people, but somebody with a negative experience tells 10, whatever. Friends, none of that's true anymore. Today, we tell thousands. Today, we tell millions. Today, the ramifications of underperformance, you falling short, you screwing up, them being pissed off, them feeling like they got the runaround or their time was wasted, the ramifications of that are profound because it reaches around the world. And as I like to tell my kids who are no longer kids, between my wife and I, we've got 5 kids, empty nesters, all 21 to 30. Doesn't mean they're off the payroll, but at least they're out of the house. But we tell them all the time that the internet is forever, and be real careful what you post. Right? It's what I tell my kids. I say, the difference between love and the internet. The internet is forever. Right? It's horrible. It's a horribly cynical thing. Who would say that to their children? But I think that the point, I think the point is made very clearly, which is, let me fix this real quick. That there's a permanence. There's a permanence to dissatisfaction. So for us, moving upstream and addressing those aspects is really, really important. So let me tell you, in the time that I have, and just put up fingers, how many time do I have? 10 minutes, 5 minutes? He's looking there. Say what?
Yeah, you got about 5 to 10. Yeah,
about 5. Okay.
Anywhere 5 to 10. Yeah.
No worries. No worries. So the case that I try to make very clearly is that when we look at that, the perception of how it is to do business with us, you guys understand all the strategic and the tactical things of how do we make that happen? What are the ramifications of AI and how is that growing in its importance and prevalence and the levels of frustration? You don't need me to talk about any of it, but there are certain aspects that I think is very important for us to make sure that the C-suite understands. I think it's very important that we are at the table when strategic decisions are being made. CX needs to be at the table, marketing needs to be at the table, but too often it's the bean counters and the operations people who are deciding because it works, right? Here's a process that works. And the challenge with that is, let me put it this way. We work hard to sort of create that customer journey. Here's how they're going to learn about us and research and contact and engage and buy and select and customize and pay and follow up, whatever that is. And it works for us. And where it doesn't, we tweak it. Because if we can have a greater level of predictability of our customers' behavior, then we can have, as an organization, greater predictability in spending habits and cash flow and profit. And we can plan for that. We can hire for that. And the big problem is, of course, our customers don't have access to our employee manual. They don't know how they're supposed to do business. They know how they want to do business with us. And that's changing. And that's why our voice within an organization is so important. Understand the ramifications of the decisions that are made. You can look in a static economic model and say, if we fire all of our checkers at the grocery store, look how much money we're going to save. But of course, a dynamic economic model says that there are ramifications and that people's opinions at some point, people are going to be pissed off enough that they're going to just seek alternatives, right? And that grand experiment is going on right now. How much can we transfer to them? How much can we automate? And so all I say to my friends and my peers is we need to be a really active voice, not just the analytics, not just the numbers, but the drivers for the behaviors. Today, I'll leave you with this, and then I'll stick around for whatever questions, is I make it very clear that most every organization is capable and competent and qualified, maybe compliant from a regulatory perspective. The real question today, when it comes to our customers, is, are you preferable? The engineers know how to create great technology. Okay, is it better than the alternatives? The marketers say, here's our features and benefits. Here's our great business model that's predictive. We've balanced the self-help with the omni-channel approach. Okay, at the end of the day, for the people who make the decision, the people who pay the bills, purchase our items, our products, and our services, not just are we qualified, not just are we great at what we do, but are we preferable? And today, preferable most often has to do with the process itself. Once again, preaching to the choir. All right, I have a million more things I can talk about. I want to respect time as well. I hope that was just another voice perspective, because mostly I speak to organizations who need to know what it is that we do and understand it. And I'm fortunate to be able to travel pretty extensively to do that. I have colleagues who I bow down to, who do wonderful, groundbreaking research right now. Jay Baer and Shep Hyken and others are doing great research that we pull from, and we make sure, of course, we give attribution when we share it. But that body of knowledge is growing, and I think our collective role needs to grow as well within organizations. All right,
Yeah,
there you go.
David, go ahead.
No, that's it.
Yeah.
Just want to be good for
So
time.
I was just say, I think that it's so important what you're talking about, and I know I talk a little bit about this on stage myself. Is the rate of change, and the environment is going kind of nuts a little bit right now. And so when you think about being preferable, when you think about really being that choice as we move into this new environment, I mean, obviously easy, right? Ridiculously easy is a key part of that. But what are some of the other things that you think the new company has to be this way versus not?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think, let me put it this way. I was on a podcast about 2 weeks ago, and somebody asked me, and they said, how is it that companies just don't get this? And I said, of course they get it. Of course they do. I don't think I'm smarter than the guy who's creating the customer journey or doing the deep analytics at Walmart or Costco or any of those. It's just hard. We're just trying to balance predictability and profitability with preferability on the customer side. So you asked the question, what are those items? It's those typical points of friction. In the new book, I talk about sort of, I think, 28 different things. Are we ridiculously easy to resolve issues? Are we ridiculously easy? I mean, I probably just need to even look at my own book to remember half the things that I do. But you think about the points of friction within organizations. Ridiculously easy to resolve issues, or to understand. I actually had a chapter on, are we ridiculously easy to see? People don't think about the vast majority of marketing materials are created by people in their 20s and 30s, but most of the revenue is from people in their 50s and beyond. I can't read a menu. I can't read most collateral. I have my reading glasses, as many other people do. But is it a point of friction? I go into restaurants today and I say, with other couples, and we're like, can we get a menu? And they said, no, you just scan the QR code. It's a perfect example of something that works very well for them. And I said, I can't read the menu on my phone. And they said, no, it's easier because we can change the menu items. And I said, well, it's easier for you. And you don't give them a hard time because they didn't design that. But it's really important for organizations to take a step back and saying, is this a point of friction? Is this maddening? It first call issue resolution, right? I mean, we're calling organizations, and now it's, of course, this please listen closely as our menu options have changed. And you're going to hear 9 things that have nothing to do with what you want. And we're all screaming, real person, agent. I think you said no. It's right. But it's stuff that we smile or laugh at, but they're known.
Yeah.
We're not saying things that they don't understand, but I think what's really incumbent upon us is to give them that external perspective. Here's how it's being perceived from the customer's perspective. And we've got to offer some real solutions. What are those alternatives? Because the loudest voice within many of these organizations is going to be the bean counter. It's really easy I was speaking in Bogota, Colombia at a customer experience conference, and they define customer experience as BPO. It's business process outsourcing. All of their vendors were headsets and of course AI. And how do we How do we have fewer touches with real people, right? We're all at conferences. We're all hearing about AI, what that's going to be. Um, but the loudest voices right now are the voices of cost cutting, of efficiency, of AI. And there's not a lot of loud enough voices on customer sentiment. I think a lot of people have VOC programs, right, where they're using Qualtrics or Medallia or any of those as well. What are we doing with the data? And are we making meaningful change? So, I mean, once again, I recognize I'm preaching to the choir, but that preferability is if I can get anything that I want, who can get it to me faster?
Yeah.
If I can work with anybody, who's going to answer the phone? I mean, it's fairly basic, but it's not
Yeah.
easy, right?
Exactly. Yeah, and you're so right. Being easy isn't easy. You might think it would be, but it's not. Chris, I think you had a question that you wanted to ask too. Oh, you're on mute.
You're
You're on
still on.
mute, Chris. Chris, you're on mute.
We're not on mute, but the microphone went. Just
Yeah,
select a
maybe your microphone died.
mic.
Is it back?
You're
Yeah,
back.
you're back. Yeah.
Sorry, yeah. Anyway, so
Or-
David, what do you think the barrier with the businesses? It's so clear to you and maybe to a lot of the people here, but you're making it really compelling. What do you think is the barrier? Is it the efficiency thing you were talking about, or what else is keeping the business leaders from realizing that you have to be preferable and driving that as their top priority?
This is going to sound really bad. It's arrogance is too strong a word. Most organizational leaders really, really drink the Kool-Aid. They love their companies and they think they're great. I was what do they say in marketing? It's like you have to make sure that they recognize that they have the problem before they're open to the solution. So when we talk about things like that, they look at their in a vacuum. Here's our process. We've got great products. We've done all of the quality control. Everything is streamlined. It works really well. And they sometimes fail to look at it within the context of a broader marketplace. There is, I've done over 500 CEO roundtable groups, and I would ask them, I would say, what's your competitive advantage? And they would always give me answers like our quality, commitment, caring, trust. It's about the people, right? And I'd say, here's the research. Your customers care about speed and flexibility and choices, but they there's this belief that what they have, their quality is off the charts. I was keynoting a conference right before I went on. The CEO of a big company, he did his presentation and he said, at the very end, he did the big rah-rah speech and he says, and remember, at the end of the day, it is about quality. We are going to win on quality. And everybody cheered. And I sat in the back and I thought, I could not disagree more, right? Quality, of course, very important. At the end of the day, it's not about quality. At the beginning of the day, it's about quality. Quality is the entry fee. You better be damn good at this. But at the end of the day, as we all know, at the end of the day, it's about competitive advantage. It's not what do you do well, what do you do better than others who do it well. So to answer your question, it's got to be a real cognizance that you may be really good at what you do, but you haven't created the cure for cancer that tastes like chocolate. Everybody's good. They don't see a meaningful differentiation. I would ask somebody like, why you? And they would go, I'll be honest. I'll tell you, you know why us? We actually do what we say we're going to do. There you go. And I'd look at him and I'd say, you really believe that, don't you? Do you really believe that your competitors are consistently underperforming and that you're or they'll say this, makes us different. We get this financial services all the time. We really listen to our customers and we tailor our solutions to meet their individual needs. And I'm like, do you really think that your competitors don't listen? Everybody listens. Get over yourself. So part of it's just a cognizance. You are really good and your competitors are really good and you better wake up to that. And your prospects don't see a meaningful differentiation. We are offering that meaningful differentiation. You think your differentiation is your quality or it's about the people. It's part of my language is horseshit. The differentiation is how it is to do business with us. Is it simple? Is it intuitive? Is it ridiculously easy? Is it expedited? Is it simple in terms of process? I think we as a collective, as an industry, I think we are the true differentiator. Now, it's different when you're looking at luxury categories. I get all of that. But I think that's the answer. I think we have to help them have a real cognizance that their competitors are really, really good. I can't think of a single company that couldn't disappear from the face of the earth today and the marketplace would be fine. A lot of sad family members to be sure, but the marketplace would absorb them. People go out of business all the time. Leaders drink their Kool-Aid too much. And that's why I think as a trusted advisor, internally or externally, I think we have to have the courage to have that conversation.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Amazing.
I got worked up and sorry I said horseshit. Now I said it twice.
Oh man.
That's horrible. Who does
I think
that?
it's a great point you bring up, even among luxury items, because when you're spending a certain amount of money, that person matters because you can go anywhere.
100%. Well, it's when we fall back on policy.
I mean, it really underscores that point.
Yeah, we fall back on policy. Right before this, I went out this morning. I just got a haircut and I stopped. I get allergy shots because I have pet allergies. And I walked in there and apparently from 11:30 to 1, they're closed. I get there at 11:35. Everybody's there back there. And they said, sorry, we don't offer them after 11 o'clock. We come back at 1 o'clock. I'm like, I'm here. I'm traveling. I can't. Is that customer centric or is that company centric? Well, we have a policy. Sorry, we have a policy. You know what? I'm right here, dude. Just like, give me a shot. But
yeah,
anyway, it's always good for stories on stage, right?
There's a good question in the chat about AI. Sean, I don't know if you want to have that.
Please read that for me because I'm a little bit farther back from the screen.
Kevin Steele, do you want to chime in on your question there?
Sure. So my question is, like, what's your perspective on the growing use of AI in the CX space, and especially pushing from the zone of using AI as a useful tool to the areas where especially executive leadership likes to focus on the idea of using it as a reducing or removing the need for butts in seats, headcount, whatever.
Right.
Especially like considering some companies like Klarna put in a lot of investment to try and they replaced their support with AI agents, and now a year later they're coming back and they're rehiring people because AI wasn't cutting it.
Right. None of us are naive, and we know that this is going to have a meaningful place in this industry. It's pretty exciting from that perspective. I hate it personally, but I'm not naive. And so one of the bits of counsel, whether I'm consulting or whether I'm speaking, I said, recognize that AI, deploying AI, chatbots, voice assistants, whatever, you don't deploy those so you don't have to talk to your customers. We deploy them to offload pedestrian issues so that we have time to talk to the customers who really need it. And so those who go all in, and I was at a conference just a couple of days ago, I spoke for the Global Retail Marketers Association. So this is the VP of marketing for the top brands that you would know, Costco and Target and McDonald's and everybody else. And so they're talking a lot about AI and what that looks like and how do we deploy it. So there's a lot of conversation around it. But one of the things that they acknowledged, we had a couple of speakers on AI, and they said the problem with most CEOs today is that it's FOMO. They're afraid that they're not, so they have to do something. So they say, okay, we're using AI, but they don't know how to use it. And so maybe it's for, of course, create agents or to write copy or to simplify tasks. And there will always be a role. The best role, of course, is more of a strategic partner and advisor. And here's a big problem, do all the deep research, and how would you give me 10 non-obvious answers for how you might solve this? Those are great uses. But those who go all in and eliminate the opportunity for real people are having real big problems. I was booked to speak for an organization before, excuse me, I'm sorry about this, my voice, before COVID. And of course that canceled. And I said, do you want to do it virtually? And they said, no, let's go ahead and meet when we all get together again. And it was for a call center for insurance adjusters. And when we finally were going to have me come and present, he says, I want you to talk about something different. We have a bigger issue. And I said, well, this is kind of what I talk about, but what's the issue? And he said, the issue is our call center agents are taking a level of abuse like we have never seen before. There's already north of a 40% attrition rate. But the problem, and I think you're all seeing this as well, is we make it so difficult to talk to a real person. It's not a true easy omni-channel. It's you got to go through 19 layers before they'll let you. By the time somebody gets to talk to a real person, they're already at a 12 in anger and frustration. And I think it's really cruel what we're doing for call center employees. They're only dealing with angry people because we're screaming at the phone. I give a strategy in the book. It's a strategy I'm not proud of, but it works. Is I tell people, I said, if you can't get a real person, agent, please give me more details. Agent, it's just either type F-bombs or shout F-bombs into the phone. And then they recognize it as this is a customer who's upset. Let me get you to an agent. Should we have to do that to talk to a real? I know I'm ranting on this, and I know that we're all this, but that's the challenge right now with AI. Is that some companies have gone all in at the expense of the human option. About 2 years ago, Frontier Airlines made a very happy announcement over a press release that they would no longer offer voice support in their customer service. You can't even pay for it. And their quote was, "We have found that our customers enjoy the digital options." I mean, really? Is that what you found? Gee, what could possibly go wrong? You get some 80-year-old couple who's going to see their new grandkid and their flight gets canceled. What are the chances? There is no one to talk to. Now, their bean counters made the determination.
Yep.
And eliminate all of this. Well, now they have relegated themselves. They are the airline of last resort, right? If you know there's no way, I mean, many of us have status, so it's easier to get through. Anyway, I'm ranting.
But what's funny, Dave, even today, earlier today, we moved, and my old mortgage, we needed to call them and give them our new address so that they could forward, because we're going to get an escrow refund.
Sure.
And I call them, and they asked me to verify my account. Well, I verified the closed account, and it said, well, that's not accurate information, and because it was closed. And
Right.
They literally got me in this loop that I couldn't get out of, that said, oh, we're sorry that we couldn't verify you, call again later. And it was, no matter what I yelled or pounded on, they literally just hung up on me. So it's like, okay.
And there's no shortage of stories. Part of our job, whether we're internal within an organization, is to be that counselor, that be the voice of our customers, of saying there are ramifications to the policy decisions that we make. And once again, in a static economic model, a penny saved is a penny earned. You cut this FTE, you save all of that money. But we live in a dynamic economic model, which means the things that we do have impact on people's perceptions, which drives their behavior. If you piss them off enough, they're going to go somewhere else, or they may just go online and tell 1 million people how much they hate you. And so that voice is so important internally, and that's what we do.
Absolutely. Well, everybody, help me thank David for such a great session. We actually took him longer than I told him we'd get him off in 30, and
you guys
are over. So absolutely. Thank you for being with us as well. We're going to actually continue the dialogue and pick up on this trend in 2 smaller groups. So Kellen's assigned everybody into 2 groups, and we want to keep this dialogue going and talk a little bit more about what Dave shared, and again, where this dialogue has taken us. So Kellen, if you move us into those groups, that'd be great. And we'll come back with about 5 minutes left.